Delivery drivers are supposed to drop things off and move on, but some packages don't stay delivered, and some recipients never stopped waiting. Welcome to Tales Atelier, where every route leads somewhere you were never meant to find.
You ever take a job thinking you understand the risks, only to realize there are whole dangers nobody warns you about? That's how it was for me. New delivery driver. 2 weeks in, they tell you about bad tips, sketchy alleys, drunk customers. But no one tells you about the orders you shouldn't accept, the ones that aren't really for food. That night, I was running late shifts, midnight kind. The kind where the city feels hollowed out. I'd dealt with everything by then. Wrong addresses, locked gates, missing buzzers, people asking me to grab something extra on the way. So when a new order pinged in, combo meal, sodas, big payout, I didn't hesitate. I hit accept. The address looked normal, at least until I got there. My GPS led me to a dead block. No open storefronts, no lights in the windows, just brick walls and quiet. I circled twice. The app insisted, "You've arrived." But there was no door, no entrance, just an empty stretch of wall. Until I saw it, the alley. Narrow, damp, half swallowed by shadow. The kind of place even rats think twice about. My GPS arrow tilted toward it, as if urging me in. I parked under a flickering street lamp, bag in hand, and walked halfway down. At the end, a concrete stairwell sank beneath the building, old, cracked, slick with age. And on my screen, the delivery notes blinked up. Leave it inside. Nothing else. No unit, no contact, just those 3 words. You ever read something so simple, your body rejects it before your brain catches up? That was me. Every instinct screamed no. But the app doesn't care about instincts. It cares about completion. A cheerful banner flashed. Almost there. Just a few more steps. So I took them. The steps led down to a heavy metal door. Industrial, like it belonged to maintenance. But taped to the center was a piece of paper, one crooked unit number scrawled in black marker. I froze. The bag suddenly felt heavier, like I wasn't holding food anymore. Something moved behind the door, a slow shift of weight. Someone was standing just inches away. I called out, "Delivery." My voice sounded wrong, too loud in that narrow space. No answer, just the hum of pipes above. The app buzzed in my pocket again. Slide to confirm drop-off. I hesitated. My thumb hovered. And for the first time since I started this job, I didn't want to finish the order. I don't know how long I stood there, halfway between logic and fear. The air smelled like damp rust. The bag crinkled in my shaking hand. Another buzz. Another prompt. Slide to confirm. The sound behind the door shifted, like feet turning, waiting. That's when I realized something. Maybe the order wasn't for food at all. Maybe it was for me. You ever have that feeling where your hand's already on the doorknob, and every nerve in your body whispers, "Don't turn it," but you do anyway? That was me at the bottom of that stairwell, bag sweating in my hand, heart beating like it wanted out. The door looked solid, heavy, the kind you only see in boiler rooms. Paper taped crooked in the middle, unit number bleeding from the damp. Behind it, the sound again. That faint shuffle of feet. You'd miss it if you weren't holding your breath. I called out, "Delivery." The word cracked in the cold air. No reply. The app buzzed again in my pocket, screen glowing that same line. Slide to confirm drop-off. My thumb hovered, but I couldn't, not yet. So I knocked. Just once. Soft. The sound echoed through the concrete tunnel. Too loud, too sharp, then silence. Whoever, or whatever, had been moving stopped. The quiet pressed back at me like weight. I waited for a voice, a cough. Anything. Nothing. Every rational part of me screamed, drop it, and leave. But I remembered the notes. Leave it inside. Not outside. Inside. So I turned the knob. It opened too easily. No key, no lock. Just a smooth click. And a rush of cold air. Damp and metallic, like rainwater on steel. I pushed it open wider. Darkness waited beyond, thick enough to swallow my phone's glow. I crouched, set the bag just inside the doorway, and lifted my phone to snap the proof photo. One quick flash, and my breath caught. Bare walls, stained floor, pipes overhead, and a single wooden chair. Facing the door, empty. The flash faded, and the darkness rushed back, like the room inhaled. I blinked hard, telling myself I imagined it. My pulse was so loud, I could barely hear my own thoughts. I reached for the knob, and the door slammed shut. The sound cracked through the stairwell. I stumbled, nearly dropped my phone. My fingers scrambled at the metal. It wouldn't move. I banged on it once, twice, no response. Then my phone buzzed again, screen glowing in the dark. New message from the app, different this time. White letters that burned into my eyes. Delivery completed. Thank you for entering. What does it mean entering? I hadn't gone in. I hadn't even crossed the line. But the app thought I had, and somewhere on the other side of that door, I heard it. A sound that made my knees lock. A slow scrape, wood dragging across concrete. The chair was moving. I backed up the steps without meaning to, each one groaning under my shoes. By the time I hit the street, I was running. Didn't care who saw me running like a madman. Didn't stop until I was in my car. Doors locked, headlights slicing the dark. The app still glowed in my hand, cheerful and complete, like nothing had happened. But I couldn't shake the sound, echoing in my head, the chair legs scraping closer. And the quiet promise that next time, it wouldn't stop at the door. You ever swear you'll never go back somewhere, only to find yourself there again anyway, like the street itself pulls you back? That's what happened with the basement stop. I told myself I was done, delete the app, move on, forget it. But rent doesn't care about fear. So a few nights later, I was driving the same route again, telling myself lightning doesn't strike twice. The ping came at 12:03 a.m. Same customer, same chain, same payout, but doubled this time. My thumb hovered over decline. It should have been easy, but curiosity's a liar. I pressed accept. When I reached the alley, the shadows looked different, thicker, like they remembered me. The GPS arrow pulsed, urging me forward. And then I saw it. The door wasn't closed. A thin slice of yellow light spilled into the stairwell. I froze halfway down. Every instinct screamed no. Maybe maintenance, maybe a prank, but the longer I stared, the more it felt like an invitation. I took one step, then another. The air smelled of wet concrete and iron. I crouched, set the bag just inside again, and raised my phone. One flash. Just one. The light caught more this time. Not bare walls. Rows of chairs. At least a dozen, lined in perfect formation. All facing the far wall. Their backs straight, waiting. The photo burned into my eyes. I blinked hard, trying to believe I'd imagined it. But my pulse wouldn't slow. Something about that setup, it wasn't random, it was deliberate. I lowered my phone, and that's when I saw it. One chair wasn't empty. Someone was sitting there. Still. Head tilted forward, hands clasped like they were waiting for me to speak. I froze, couldn't breathe, couldn't move. I just watched as the shadow in the chair lifted its head, slowly. Even from across the room, I felt the pull of those eyes. Heavy, focused, human, but not quite. Like the body remembered being alive, but the soul hadn't caught up. I stumbled back a step, the floor groaning beneath me. The chair creaked, the head tilted farther, too far. Bones shouldn't move that way. I bolted. Up the stairs, 2 at a time. The door slammed behind me. Maybe from wind, maybe not. I didn't care. I burst into the alley, gasping, shaking so hard I dropped my phone. When I grabbed it, the screen lit up with a new notification. No cheerful checkmark this time, just one message. No sound, no sender. Don't leave yet. We have another order for you. I stood there, heart thudding in my throat, the screen glowing against my trembling hands. Somewhere down in that dark, a chair scraped again, faint and patient. Like whoever was sitting down there wasn't finished with me yet. And deep down, I knew this wasn't about delivery anymore. It was about testing how far I'd go before breaking. You ever try convincing yourself you didn't see something, and then your phone proves you wrong? That's what happened next. After I ran, I sat in my car for 10 whole minutes, engine running, hands locked on the steering wheel, heart racing so hard it made my vision pulse. On my phone, that message still glowed. Don't leave yet. We have another order for you. I didn't press anything. Didn't accept. Didn't decline. But the app refreshed itself anyway. Same address. Same customer. No food items this time. Just instructions. Step inside. I slammed the app shut, swiped it away. But seconds later, it reopened on its own. The same order waiting like it knew I was still parked outside. That was the first time I truly felt hunted. Like whatever this was, it didn't need permission anymore. I told myself I'd quit. Delete everything. But fear and curiosity make a cruel team. I opened my photos instead. The proof shot from my last delivery. It should have shown nothing more than a bag on a concrete floor. Instead, my stomach dropped. There, in the corner, a blur that wasn't just shadow. Someone sitting in one of those chairs. Head bent. Still. Waiting. I zoomed in, hands shaking. The figure was grainy, but real. Light caught on what might have been hair, or something wet. No face, no features, just the shape of a person. My chest tightened, but what froze me wasn't the figure. It was the timestamp. The app said I'd taken the photo at 12:25. My phone said 12:17. 8 minutes gone. 8 minutes I couldn't remember. I stared at that photo until my reflection blurred in the screen. How long had I been standing there? How long had the door been open? Another buzz, another order. This time, no meal listed. Just 2 words. Second pickup. Pickup, not drop off. My whole body went cold. Whatever this was, it wasn't done with me yet. That's when I drove across the city to the 24-hour diner. The one where other night drivers gather like survivors. I ordered a coffee I didn't drink. When I spotted a guy I recognized from the forums, I slid my phone across the counter. Ever seen this address? He froze, mid-bite, his face drained color. He pushed the phone back without a word. Don't take it again, he said quietly. Just don't. I pressed him. What is it? Who lives there? He shook his head. No one, not anymore. His voice cracked like he hated remembering. Before I could ask more, my phone buzzed again. But not from the app, a text this time. No number, no sender, just one message glowing in the dark. You're late. The coffee went cold in my hand. I looked toward the diner window. The street outside was empty. No cars, no sound, just the faint reflection of me in the glass. And for a moment, I thought I saw another shape beside it. Same posture, same phone in hand, watching me, smiling. The kind of smile that means you've already accepted the next order. You ever get warned to stay away from something? And instead, that warning just digs deeper. That was me after the diner. The words, nobody, not anymore, looped in my head all night. If I was smart, I'd have listened. But I wasn't smart. I was broke, desperate, and stupidly curious. So I did the one thing you're never supposed to do. I started digging. I asked around in driver forums. DM'd people who mentioned creepy orders. Most ignored me. A few blocked me instantly. But one message stuck. A driver wrote, "Basement orders been around for years. Different apps, same address, just don't accept." I asked why. No reply. Just a final line that made my skin crawl. You can survive it if you ignore it long enough. Ignore it. Decline every time. Eventually it latches onto someone else. That word. Latch. It wouldn't leave me. I opened my own logs, scrolling through past orders. Every basement delivery was still there, but something was wrong. Timestamps didn't match. Photos had doubles. Same second, same angle. Like I'd been in 2 places at once. Then my phone buzzed. Another order. Same customer. Same address. But no food this time. Just 2 words under instructions. Bring yourself. I swear I almost threw the phone out the window. Decline. Buzz. Decline. Buzz. It wouldn't stop. Until finally the screen froze. Order locked in. Timer ticking down. I sat there in the dark, hands shaking, watching the seconds disappear. When the timer hit 0, the app flashed delivery in progress. But I hadn't moved. I hadn't accepted. The words burned on screen anyway. That's when I realized it didn't need my consent anymore. It had mine on file. I drove to the building the next day in daylight. Just once. Needed to see it clean, empty, harmless. A shopkeeper nearby watched me staring at the alley. You renting? He asked. No, just curious who uses that basement. He frowned. Vacant for years. Condemned. No one's been down there since inspection. I pointed. There's a number taped to the door. He nodded slowly. It's always been there. He leaned in, voice low. Listen, that door's bad luck. Drivers talk. I've heard stories. They keep going back till they don't come back at all. I tried to laugh. Didn't work. He sighed. You want to last? Ignore certain pings, or the job eats you. I wanted to believe it was superstition. But that night, at 2:14 a.m., my phone buzzed again. Same order, same address, same words. I deleted the app. At 2:15, it buzzed anyway. New message. 3 words I'll never forget. Stop fighting it. Then, as I stared at the frozen screen, a push notification slid up from nowhere. No app name, no sound. Just one line glowing against the black. Your acceptance has been confirmed. You ever learn a rule too late? One everyone else seems to know, but no one bothers to tell you. That's what the basement stop was. Not a delivery, not a glitch, just a trap disguised as a job. After that night, the blank order, the message saying your acceptance has been confirmed, I stopped driving. At least for a while. But rent doesn't pause for fear. So I found myself scrolling again, watching new orders pop up like ghosts. I never accepted them, but one kept showing up. Same payout, same instructions, same pulsing blue pin on the map. Sometimes 3 times a night. It never went away. It was waiting. I started reaching out again. Drivers I knew in real life this time. One laughed when I brought it up, another didn't. He just went quiet, chewing his lip. You're new, he said softly. You didn't know the rule. What rule? I asked. He looked at me like I'd already broken it. Don't take the basement. Ever. I pressed him, desperate. What happens if you do? He shook his head. Look, man, we don't know what's behind that door. None of us do. But the ones who keep accepting, they stop showing up, stop posting, stop being seen. Only way to survive is to ignore it long enough. Eventually, it finds someone else. Find someone else. That phrase stuck to my ribs. Online, the stories were the same. Short, cryptic posts on driver forums. Decline every time. Block the address. Don't reply. The ones who lasted the longest, they all said the same thing. If you ignore it long enough, the order moves on. Like it's looking for someone willing, someone who still answers the ping, someone like I used to be. It's been months now. The pings come less often. Some weeks none, some weeks 1 or 2. Just to test me. Every time, I feel my chest tighten. The temptation hums beneath my skin, but I swipe it away, fast, hard. Like deleting a memory before it spreads, because that's what the survivors say. Ignore it. And eventually, it'll latch somewhere else. Sometimes I wonder where it goes next. Whose shift it slips into, whose GPS arrow starts pulsing blue. I imagine another driver out there right now, fresh on the job, thinking it's just another meal. Maybe they'll see the same concrete stairwell, the same door, the same paper taped in the middle. And maybe this time, they'll open it. I tell myself I survived. But the truth is, I still check the app every night before bed, just to be sure the map's clear, just to see if it's finally gone. And sometimes, just sometimes, I see that pin again, pulsing soft blue, same coordinates, same instructions. And that's when I remember what the other driver said. It only leaves you alone once it finds someone new. So if you're reading this, and your phone just buzzed, maybe check your app. Because if the basement stops on your route tonight, I think it's already found you.
Quick pause. Thank you for giving us your time. Stories connect us. If you are enjoying this one, a like or subscribe to Tales Atelier is a gift we truly appreciate. We're just starting and your time means the world. Now, story mode back on.
Have you ever carried something so light it felt wrong? Like your arms expected weight, but your hands held only air. That's what my first night with Haven Courier Services felt like. We delivered comfort parcels to hospice patients. Little things like tea, blankets, cards. The dispatcher handed me a stack and said, "Night routes easy. They're light." His tone made it sound like both a warning and a mercy. The first box barely existed. Warm, hollow, sealed tight. Label, personal parcel, priority care. Weight, 0.3 kilograms. The barcode beeped once, faint and hesitant, as if unsure it was real. I told myself maybe socks or scented soap. Something soft enough to weigh nothing. Still, my fingers tingled when I picked it up, like the cardboard was breathing. A pulse, so faint I thought I imagined it. The address was on the edge of town, a single-story house framed by wilting hydrangeas. A nurse opened the door before I knocked. Eyes tired, but kind. "Is this for Marjorie?" she asked. I nodded. The air smelled faintly of rain and lavender detergent. Inside, the room was dim but warm. One lamp glowing beside a frail woman who looked like she'd been waiting her whole life for this one delivery. I set the parcel gently on her lap. She traced the label with trembling fingers, smiling as if she recognized it. "You found it," she whispered, even before opening it. The nurse froze mid-step. Marjorie peeled back the tape slowly, reverently. When the flaps opened, her eyes filled with tears. She reached in and lifted something invisible. Her breath hitched, not from pain, but from memory. The nurse pressed her hand to her mouth. "Mrs. Harper?" Marjorie nodded through tears. "It's my Henry." Her fingers hovered in the air, cradling nothing, yet everything. I saw her shoulders relax, as though she'd been waiting for permission to rest. When she finally looked up, she whispered, "Please, tell them, thank you." I didn't know who them meant. I didn't ask. I just nodded, afraid to break whatever had entered the room. When I left, the nurse followed me to the porch, still shaken. "What did you bring her?" she asked. "Just what was listed," I said, showing her the empty manifest. "She's been asking for that picture for years," she murmured. I frowned. "What picture?" She looked down. The box sat neatly folded in her hands, empty. She hadn't noticed picking it up. Neither had I. The night felt different after that. Quieter, but heavier inside. Back in the van, I checked the manifest again. The system listed Marjorie Harper, item delivered successfully. But the content field wasn't blank anymore. Someone had handwritten, "Photo of husband, Henry Harper, 1959 picnic." My pulse skipped. There was no way that record updated on its own. I hadn't even entered her signature yet. Outside, the rain had stopped, but my windshield still shimmered like something unseen was breathing against it. At the depot, the dispatcher barely glanced up. "You good?" he asked. "Yeah," I said, but the box was empty. He gave a small, knowing smile. "They're all light," he said simply, like it explained everything. I wanted to press him, but he'd already turned back to his clipboard, checking off names I didn't recognize. Some had no addresses, some had no delivery dates at all. I lingered by the van before clocking out, staring at the next package on my route list. Another priority care. Same weight, 0.3 kilograms, same faint warmth through the cardboard. The label was handwritten this time, almost delicate. The name blurred for a moment before it settled into focus. It wasn't one of tomorrow's deliveries. It was already marked in progress. As I set it aside, I caught my reflection in the dark window. Tired, pale, hands resting like I was still holding something. Maybe I was. Maybe we all are. That first night taught me something I still don't fully understand. Some deliveries don't carry things. They carry goodbyes. And maybe that's why the boxers feel so light. Because what's inside has already been forgiven. The next night I came early, hoping the new batch would feel normal, heavier. They didn't. 5 boxes waited, each light as a breath. Their labels were smudged, written like someone half awake. The dispatcher didn't explain, just said, same route, different names. I wanted to ask where they came from, who packed them. But I didn't. I signed the sheet and lifted the boxes gently, like they might remember being touched. By midnight I'd made 2 stops. Each patient reacted the same, quiet tears, trembling hands, gratitude. They'd open the box and stare into the empty space, as though seeing something I couldn't. One man lifted his hands, holding nothing, whispering, "You found her." Another looked right at me, eyes wet, and said, "It's beautiful." I checked each manifest before leaving. Every one of them listed the same word. Returned. Curiosity won on the 3rd delivery. I stayed in the van, cut the tape from one of the extras. Inside, folded tissue paper, pale and perfect. It glowed faintly in the dashlight. When I brushed it aside, I saw faint indentations, like something pressed there once, but left quietly. The air inside smelled like cedar and old perfume. I held my breath, realizing it wasn't empty at all. It was holding the imprint of what someone missed most. I resealed it fast. The second the tape touched, my radio crackled. Even though it was off, a whisper slid through static. Delivered successfully. My fingers went cold. I checked the scanner. The parcel was already logged as received. By who? There was no name. Just a tiny icon, a feather floating upward. My phone battery dropped from 92 to 6% instantly. The air in the van felt charged, like the moment before thunder. At the next stop, the nurse was already waiting outside. "You're the night courier?" she asked. I nodded. Her eyes lingered on the box. "They always sleep better after your visits," she murmured. Peaceful, like they finally let go. I wanted to tell her I didn't do anything, that the boxers came sealed, but the words stuck. There was a tenderness to her tone that made me feel like interrupting it would be cruel. When I got back to the depot, the place was empty. Just buzzing lights and that faint cedar scent again. The dispatcher's chair was still spinning, his monitor aglow. A new tab blinked open. Special dispatch. Contents unknown. Hundreds of entries scrolled down the page, each name marked, comforted. Near the bottom, a final line glowed softly in gold. My name. Next to it, a word that made my throat close. Pending. I stared until the screen dimmed. Under status, it said, delivery incomplete. I clicked it. A blank record opened. No address, no barcode, no destination. Just one sentence at the bottom flashing like a heartbeat. Recipient currently active. The hum in the vents deepened, a long exhale that seemed to follow my pulse. I closed the laptop fast, but the words burned into the dark like afterimage. I told myself to go home, but when I reached the van, something sat on the passenger seat. A box, unlabeled. The cardboard was older, water-stained, soft at the corners. I hadn't brought it in. I hadn't seen it before. When I lifted it, the air changed, warm again, too warm. Almost like a pulse beneath my palms. I set it beside me gently. The van filled with a smell like old wood and sunlight. The radio flickered to life on its own, static, then snippets of laughter, then faint piano music. I glanced at the scanner. A new entry blinked at the bottom of the list. Contents, unknown, driver will know upon arrival. The destination line wasn't blank this time. It wasn't a street address either, just a set of coordinates. Familiar ones, my home coordinates. I didn't open it that night. I placed it on my kitchen counter, still warm, still faintly humming. The sound blended with the refrigerator's buzz until I couldn't tell them apart. Around 2 a.m., I whispered the same words I'd told every package. You'll get there soon. The warmth pulsed once, steady, gentle, like acknowledgement. I didn't know what it meant yet, only that, somehow, the box was waiting for me. I couldn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the blank label on that box, glowing faintly in the dark. By sunrise, I decided to return to the depot early. Maybe I'd find answers, or maybe I'd prove I was just tired. The place looked different in daylight, dustier, smaller, and far too quiet. The warehouse door was unlocked, though no one should have been there. Inside, every conveyor belt was still, every light humming like it was thinking. The air was warm, heavy, with that same cedar scent I'd noticed before. It lingered like incense after a funeral. I walked through the aisles, expecting pallets or forklifts. But the floor was empty. Just faint marks where boxers had once sat. I followed the faint hum deeper inside. The closer I got to the loading dock, the more I felt it. That strange warmth against my palms. Even though I wasn't holding anything. At the far end of the building, I found a new section cordoned off by yellow tape. A sign hung crookedly above the doorway. Special dispatch, night run. My badge shouldn't have worked, but when I scanned it, the lock clicked open. The room beyond wasn't on any map I'd seen. Shelves lined the walls, filled not with packages, but with empty space. Boxes shimmered faintly, translucent, like heat rising off asphalt. They weren't really there, but I could see them. Rows and rows of ghost packages, each flickering in and out like candlelight. I reached for one. My hand passed straight through, cold at first, then warm, as if the box remembered being touched. On a nearby shelf, a clipboard sat waiting. It listed dozens of names, each under a single column. Dispatched. At the bottom, a space was left blank. Waiting. The computer terminal flickered to life the moment I stepped closer. The screen displayed footage from the loading bay, grainy, black and white. A figure in a white uniform appeared, carrying boxers to a van. My van. The image glitched whenever they looked toward the camera. I leaned in, heart pounding. The frame cleared for a second, just enough to see my own name tag reflected on their chest. The video looped again and again. Each time the figure turned, more details sharpened. My build, my posture, the faint scar on my hand. It was me, or something wearing the idea of me. I rewound to the start. The timestamp showed midnight, but the date was tomorrow. I closed the window fast, but the monitor printed a new manifest automatically. Dispatcher. My name. Route begins at 12 a.m. I stumbled backward. My ID badge vibrated in my pocket, beeping softly. The screen behind me began to populate with new data, addresses, coordinates, even weather forecasts for tomorrow's deliveries. It was building the route before my eyes, but every stop listed the same thing under item. Light package. And every recipient name matched the obituary section of last week's paper. I tried to shut it all down, but the keyboard wouldn't respond. The monitor glowed brighter until the whole room was bathed in soft amber light. Then, through the speakers, a calm voice whispered,
"Route confirmation required."
I didn't touch anything, yet the cursor blinked over the yes button. Once, twice, then clicked itself. My chest tightened. The manifest printed out. The first delivery address was my own. I ran outside, heart hammering. The morning air hit like cold glass. My van was parked where I'd left it, but something was off. The windshield wipers ticked, moving without rain. Inside, the dashboard screen was already lit. GPS tracking active. The map displayed the new route, starting point, warehouse, destination, home. Estimated departure, 11:59 p.m. Estimated arrival, until received. I sat there, staring through the windshield as the sunlight faded over the warehouse roof. The manifest paper trembled in my hand. Each time I blinked, another faint name appeared below mine, like the list was still growing. I should have quit right then, but a part of me needed to see where the deliveries truly came from. Maybe the only way to understand what I'd become was to finish the route. I didn't go home that night. I sat in the van with the manifest, still warm against my leg. Each name pulsed faintly in the dark, as if the paper breathed. The addresses were all nearby, same town, same routes I'd already driven. But something was wrong. Every one of them belonged to someone I knew from past deliveries. Someone whose boxers had been received successfully. Someone who shouldn't still need another. At dawn, I parked outside a diner and ordered black coffee just to feel normal again. The waitress poured it slow, eyeing my courier jacket. "Long night?" she asked. "Something like that," I said. She smiled weakly. "You Haven drivers? You folks always show up right before someone passes." I froze halfway to sipping. "What do you mean?" she shrugged. "Hospice deliveries, right? Always the last thing they get." Her words followed me out the door. The sun hit the dashboard just right, illuminating the newest manifest page that had appeared overnight. I hadn't printed it. The names were all fresh. 6 new recipients. Beside each one, a faint note read, "Awaiting return." I scrolled down the list until I saw it. My neighbor's address, Mrs. Dalton. She'd waved to me just yesterday from her garden, but next to her name, the column already said delivered. I drove there anyway. Her curtains were drawn, the mailbox overflowed with junk mail, a few petals caught between the flyers. I knocked once, twice, no answer. When I turned to leave, a nurse stepped out from the side gate, startled. "She passed this morning," she said gently. My mouth went dry. "She was waiting for something last night," the nurse added. Kept saying, "The light one's coming soon." Back in the van, I opened the glove compartment, where I'd left that unlabeled box from before. It was gone. The seat was warm though, like someone had just been sitting there. I checked the route again. A new line appeared, blinking softly. "Special stop added. For return only." No coordinates this time. Just a single phrase looping beneath it. Delivered to current residents. I didn't know what that meant. Not yet. I drove aimlessly, waiting for the map to update, until I realized the compass had stopped spinning. Every turn pointed me toward the warehouse. I tried ignoring it, taking side streets, old service roads, even a dead-end lane behind the cemetery. But the GPS recalibrated. Every time, same destination, same glowing marker pulsing in rhythm with my heartbeat. When I passed the first streetlight, the radio came alive again, whispering names I'd just read. By midnight, I was back outside the depot. No trucks, no workers, just silence and that smell of cedar and paper again. I left the van running, carrying the manifest under my arm. The warehouse door was ajar, faint gold light spilling through. Inside, the rows of spectral boxes shimmered brighter than before, like they knew I'd come back. And at the far wall, a new screen waited, my name already glowing at the top. The display read, "Next phase, recipient review." Below, it was a list of every address I'd ever delivered to, one by one. The entries faded until only a few remained. Each line pulsed softly, the letters rearranging themselves, forming messages I couldn't unsee.
You carried them gently. They remembered your kindness. It's your turn to rest.
I whispered, "Rest where?" But the warehouse only sighed in reply. On a small desk near the terminal, I found another box, identical to the first. Label, pending return. I didn't open it, but my hands trembled around the flaps, like they knew the shape of what waited inside. Something brushed my wrist, weightless but real, and the warmth spread through my chest, calm and deep. For the first time since I'd started this job, I wasn't afraid of what the night would bring. As I carried the box toward the van, the terminal flickered one last message across its screen. All routes must complete. When I turned back, the lights dimmed, leaving only that soft glow from the box in my arms. It was light. Yes, so light, I barely felt it, but the warmth stayed. Like carrying the echo of a heartbeat. And somewhere deep down, I already knew where this final delivery was headed. The air felt different that night, softer, quieter, as if the whole world was holding its breath. I followed the same route I always did, though no address appeared on the scanner. It only showed a single blinking dot ahead of me. When I pulled over, I realized where I was. Marjorie Harper's street. The woman from my first delivery. Her house windows glowed faintly, though I knew she'd passed weeks ago. The front door opened before I could knock. Warm light spilled out onto the porch, along with the smell of old perfume. "You're late," a voice said, calm, patient. Marjorie stood there, healthy, radiant, younger somehow. She smiled like she'd been waiting for me. I handed her the parcel. She placed a hand over mine and whispered, "It's light because it's everything we let go of." Her touch was steady, not ghostly, grounding. She turned the box in her hands and opened it carefully. No tissue paper this time, just a folded letter sealed with wax. "What does it say?" I asked. She smiled. "It isn't for me." Her eyes lifted toward mine. "It's for you." She pressed the letter into my palm, and for the first time, I felt the weight of something inside one of those boxes. Not heavy, but real. I wanted to ask who sent it, but she was already fading. The light dimmed around her, shrinking until the house looked dark again. I stepped inside, calling her name, but only silence answered. Dust covered the furniture, a thin film of months gone by. I stood in the center of the living room, letter in hand, hearing nothing but my own pulse. Outside, the wind carried faint laughter, then the rustle of paper, as if the house itself exhaled. Back in the van, I stared at the envelope. My name was written in the same looping handwriting as the delivery manifests. I hesitated before breaking the seal. Inside, the page was blank, completely blank. I held it up to the light, flipped it over, rubbed the corner between my fingers. Nothing. But as I set it down, faint words began appearing, written slowly from the inside out, as if someone invisible were still writing. The message read, "Every driver delivers themselves in the end." I sat frozen, watching the ink dry. My phone buzzed, a new route notification lighting up the screen. Special dispatch, final delivery. I checked the manifest. Only one address, no name, but I recognized the street instantly. It was mine. When I looked up, the headlights flickered, and the van's engine started on its own. I should have been terrified, but I wasn't. The fear that used to sit under my ribs had softened into something else, understanding, maybe. The route map glowed faintly on the dashboard, showing a short drive across town. The closer I got, the warmer the box beside me became. When I stopped at my building, the screen blinked, arrival confirmed. The same phrase I'd seen 100 times before. Except this time, I was the recipient. The hallway lights buzzed as I climbed the stairs. My key trembled in the lock. Inside, everything was the same, except for the smell. Cedar and warmth, faint like sunlight through paper. On my kitchen table sat another folded letter, identical to the first. No envelope this time. Just 6 words written in silver ink. Deliver it onward, when you're ready. I didn't know who wrote it, or when. I placed the letter beside the empty box and sat for a long time, listening to the hum in the walls. It sounded almost like breathing. Maybe the warehouse wasn't just a place. I thought maybe it was something that grew inside the people who carried those light boxes. A bridge between what was lost and what was waiting. And maybe that's why the dispatch list kept changing, because none of us ever truly clocked out. At dawn, the van idled outside by itself, engine purring softly. A new manifest printed through the dash slot, curling onto the passenger seat. Only one line this time. Dispatcher, my name. Recipient, in transit. I folded the letter carefully, and placed it inside the box. When I closed the lid, the hum stopped. Peaceful silence. For the first time in weeks, I felt weightless. Ready. Light. The morning was quiet, almost unreal. I sat behind the wheel, the sun rising pale through the windshield. My scanner glowed faintly, showing no route, no map. Just one line pulsing in gold. Final delivery, en route. The van moved like it remembered the way. I didn't steer at first. The hum beneath my seat was steady, familiar, as if the road had become part of the same current that guided the boxers home. I passed the bakery, where the ovens used to make the whole street smell like sugar. The lights were still off, but for a second, I saw silhouettes moving inside. 2 figures kneading dough, laughing. They looked young, like a memory preserved mid-laughter. Then they were gone. Every corner I turned, the world flickered that way, half empty, half alive. I realized I wasn't driving through the city anymore. I was driving through its echoes. The dashboard clock froze at 11:59. My headlights dimmed, though the sun was already up. Ahead, the road narrowed, trees closing in like curtains. At the end of the lane stood a single figure waiting by a mailbox. White uniform, cap tilted. I slowed, hand hovering over the horn. He looked familiar. Same jacket, same build. My heart started pounding. The name stitched on his badge caught the light. It was mine. He smiled when I opened the door, as if greeting an old coworker. "You're right on time," he said. His voice was calm, echoing slightly. I wanted to ask what was happening, but my throat locked up. He opened the van door and reached for the last box. The one with no label, the one that had followed me for nights. "I'll take it from here," he said softly. "You've done your part." I stood frozen as he carried it toward the trees. The box glowed faintly, brighter with each step. "Wait," I called. "Who are you delivering it to?" He looked back once, the light spilling across his face. "Everyone gets one in the end," he said, smiling. "Even us." Then he disappeared into the mist, and the forest shimmered like ripples on still water. The smell of cedar wrapped around me, gentle, final. I climbed back into the van, but the ignition key was already turned off. The engine had stopped. The scanner screen flickered one last time, showing a single phrase. "Delivery complete. Thank you for your service." I waited for the next assignment, but nothing came. The radio played soft static, the kind that almost sounds like a voice if you listen long enough. I closed my eyes, letting the quiet take shape. When I opened them, I wasn't in the van anymore. I was standing beside a long conveyor belt, endless rows of light boxes gliding forward, each one humming faintly. I lifted one. It was warm. "Weightless," the label read, "to be remembered." Somewhere beyond the endless glow, I heard laughter, quiet conversation, the soft rhythm of lives continuing. The warehouse wasn't a building anymore. It was a passage, and I was part of it. A figure passed me on the other side, another courier, uniform crisp and new. She nodded, smiling knowingly, and kept walking, balancing a stack of boxes that glowed like lanterns. I wanted to ask her name, but I already knew it wouldn't matter. Out here, everyone's name eventually faded into light. The only thing that stayed was the warmth we carried forward, the delivery that never ended. Somewhere, I heard the faint sound of tires on wet pavement, the echo of my old van. Maybe someone else had taken the route now. Another driver learning what I had. I hoped they'd be gentle with the boxers, whisper to them like I did. I hoped they'd feel that same quiet understanding, that what we deliver isn't weight, but release. That even endings can be soft. When the belt slowed, I set down the final box. It was lighter than air, glowing from within. My reflection hovered on its surface, calm, smiling. Then the light widened, spilling across everything. The hum deepened into stillness. For the first time, I understood. None of the boxers had ever been empty. They had simply been waiting, just like me, to be carried home.